Hello, everyone. Tony Warfield here. Thank you so much for being on. I'm really excited about these Tuesday discussions. Tonight, we're going to be having a special discussion about living benefits and the power of living benefits. A lot of people have been talking about some of the challenges that's been going on in our economy and in our nation, and some of the interesting decisions that are being made towards a lot of our social safety nets, so whether it be Medicaid, whether it be Medicare, Social Security. And with all these different challenges, we want to be able to know what are the options that are available to ourselves and our families. So I wanted to be able to have a little bit more of an expansive conversation about living benefits and how they can be very, very valuable protection, or offer a very valuable protection to you and your family. So if I can get everybody to join me on camera, looks like I got a whole lot of names, but not any people yet. So as we get started, there will be a few people jumping in and out. I get that, but if because we have a small group tonight, it'd be great if you have any questions, feel free to jump in there and ask those questions. I want this discussion to be a little bit more expansive, just like I said earlier. So your questions are very important, especially to the viewers who might be watching this presentation after hours, because a lot of people are on their way home from work, or they're attending to other business. So I want to be able to make sure this information is available. So welcome, Miss Moore. Welcome, Miss Jennifer. Welcome, Mr. Wade. Miss Kenyon, when her audio starts working, welcome as well. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. In the interest of time, I definitely want to make sure we get started on time every week out of respect for everyone's time. So if I can get a thumbs up on the presentation, if you can see it, let me know. Excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Moore. So again, we're going to be talking about the power of living benefits, protecting family financial legacy. It's important, right? This presentation is something that we do on a weekly basis. But as I shared with you, I just wanted to be able to go a little bit deeper, talk about specifics for individual people, especially considering some of the challenges that we're having in the medical world, where the medical industry is becoming more of a business and not really something that's there to help people to be cured of whatever their ailments are. And because of that, the business is, what's the purpose of business? It's to make more money, make more money. So if you're making healthcare more like a business, then they're going to do everything that they can to increase their bottom line, which obviously affects you and I as consumers and as patients in the medical industry. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into this discussion. So, I figure there are about 4 stages to your financial journey, right? When you get born, you're a little baby. That's not me, by the way, but I was as cute. At least I believe I was. My sister said I was a little fat baby with really, really curly hair. So since I don't have any pictures of that, I like to say I looked like Denzel when I was born. How about that? Never mind. So when you get started, you're a little baby and your parents are taking care of you, right? Stage 1, even before you're born, they're trying to figure out where they're going to live, how they're going to raise you, what schools you're going to go to. Are they going to have enough money available to be able to make sure they take care of you? And it seems like everyone always wants to call me every time I am in this presentation. So let me go ahead and turn this phone off to make sure they cannot do that. Okay, so let me give me a second. I apologize for this. Because every video there's that bling 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 bling. I'm like, at least they call me at a regular time, right? So again, when even before you're born, your parents are trying to figure out where they're going to come up with this money. Even if if it's a single parent home or a dual parent home, where are they going to come up with this money, right? So what are some of the costs in raising a child, right? So I know one of the costs is always when they're a baby, what is it? Diapers, right? Food, clothing, a place to stay. What do you guys, as mothers, what are some of the key costs that you have to pay for to take care of a child? Anybody know?
You're still working, there's always childcare.
Child care, exactly. And do you know what? Do you remember back in the day you can pay some 13-year-old about $4 or $5 an hour to look after your kids after school? How much is child care right now, Miss Moore? You know?
I have no idea. I haven't had a child in a number of years, so
Well, what I have learned about child care, Miss Moore, is a lot of
ex-
these people taking care of our kids got bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, sometimes even higher degrees. And in order for you to pay for them to look after your children, you're literally paying a yearly wage to them in excess of $50,000 a year or more, right? So you literally have to have a job that pays you multiple incomes so you can pay one of those incomes to the person looking after your children. How about that? So we want to make sure that we find the best ways to make sure our money is going to be able to work even harder for us. But the good news is at some point you get to kick that kid out of the house, right? So stage two, they're going to be leaving the nest. At least you hope they will leave the nest at some point. Now, preferably they'll leave the nest when they are ready. One of the things I am not an advocate of is kicking our children out of the home before they are ready. Now, that being said, if they don't get ready until they're 35, you should have kicked them out 10 years prior, right? Because there are some people who are lifelong children, living under their parents. But there's a reasonable amount of time. If you got a child who's in college, they might not have gotten a scholarship or something like that. They want to stay at the house a couple of more years, help them save some money while they get on their feet. Makes total sense to me. And then once they're able to, get on their feet, once they're able to enter the workforce, looking at getting married and having their children, they're able to move forward, right? So, some of the financial events that you be looking forward to is they start developing these really, really good financial habits. So where do they get those good financial habits from? They're going to get it from their parents, right? So you hope during stage one that they learn a lot of these good financial habits so they can go ahead and develop those financial habits, get their home, get their car, be able to take care of their babies, be able to buy multiple homes whatsoever, right? So once they got their foothold, once they got their feet planted solidly or firmly on the ground, they go ahead and they go to stage three. Stage three is when they have the children, they start to grow their family, they start getting stronger in their positions or their careers or their business, right? They might even get some inheritance from their parents or some other family member who might have been well to do to bequeath them some of the monies that they need, right? So now they start to build their solid financial future, right? They start purchasing more homes, accumulating more wealth, funding college educations for their children, whatnot, right? So there's a wonderful opportunity for you to really start getting expansive about building your wealth. And of course, as you get older, you enter stage four, where you start, maybe another promotion, maybe you start looking at retirement. You definitely will start having grandkids. And then unfortunately, the time comes when you must answer God's call. But during that time, the financial events, you're going to have greater tax sensitivity. You want to start focusing on building your family legacy. You've got to make sure you concentrate on estate planning and some of the medical costs that are involved with getting up in age, whether it be long-term care insurance or anything like that, or any other things that you might need for, in terms of your income versus your medical expenses versus your living expenses, etc. Right? So in these four stages, if everything were to go perfectly, it would go exactly like this. You would be born, you would graduate college, you would build a family, you become a grandparent, you'll answer God's call, leaving your legacy for another circle of life situation, another new generation to be birthed. But unfortunately, in this country, we got a few challenges. So there's a couple of key questions that I would ask, right? What is your primary income source? And the reason why I want to ask you that is because I want your mind thinking about how are you bringing in money into your household at each of those stages. So let me go back one slide. These four stages have to have a certain amount of money associated with each of those stages. Would you agree? Just nod your head, right? All right, so if we have to have a certain amount of money associated with each of those stages, we need to understand where that money is coming from and how that money will be utilized, right? So what is your primary income source? Your hourly worker, salary, your retirement income, whether it be pensions, your IRAs, rollovers, right? You got a business, you might be getting most of your money from Social Security, or like in my situation, perhaps VA benefits, right? The second question would be, what is your primary payment source for your medical care, right? And as you get older, that becomes a paramount discussion because, hey, that stuff's expensive, right? So just like with your primary income sources, you're going to be paying for your medical insurance in the same way that you're bringing in your income sources, hourly, salary, retirement income, perhaps your business. Some of your money is coming from your Social Security payments if it's not being reduced in any other way. But then there's Medicare and Medicaid, right? And of course, the VA disability payments. And you'll notice that the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and VA disability payments are in red. The reason why I highlighted those is because all three of those programs are under fire right now, today. So there's a lot of senior citizens, a lot of service members, veterans who are really nervous about what's going on. 50% of our underprivileged population gets their medical care through Medicare, right? So that is a huge situation where if half the country is dependent on Medicare and they are threatening to get rid of it, you are literally talking about dropping 50% of the population, making them dependent on going to emergency rooms, which is going to cause a whole wealth of financial challenges for many American families. And we just cannot handle that, right? So my question is, if you think about all those income sources, what happens if those income sources get interrupted, right? So, you might end up with a terminal illness where you're expected to expire within 12, 18 to 24 months. You might end up having a chronic illness where you cannot, especially if you're an hourly wage worker, if you cannot physically go to work or you own your own business and you're the sole proprietor of your own business, if you cannot go to work, that means you're not bringing any revenue. You don't have any employees. If you're the one, right, then how are you going to make this money? So if you can't do 2 out of your 6 activities of daily living, you can't dress yourself, feed yourself, you can't bathe yourself, go to the bathroom, you can't go from the bed to your wheelchair or whatnot, or you can't hold your stool, that means you can't go to work. So what happens? You might end up with a critical illness where you might end up with some form of cancer, stroke, or heart attack. Maybe ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I don't know why I keep trying to say that word, but it's entertaining to me, right? But whether it be a heart valve replacement, or in my mother's case, you might have had a situation where you had, diabetes, and the diabetes caused your kidneys to fail, end-stage renal failure. So if you end up with any of these medical challenges, that could affect how you bring in your income to your household. And if you don't have any insurances or you don't have any revenue coming into the household, that's going to affect your ability to take care of yourself medically to be able to make sure you recover from that so you can return to the workforce. So there's got to be something that you can do, right? I'd like to think so. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't have the answer. So you can imagine if you have these various illnesses, right? If you look at this top 10 reasons why people go into bankruptcy, right? And bankruptcy is almost an epidemic in the Black and brown communities because we don't have access to a lot of the information that other people do. 42% of the people that are in bankruptcy, they went into bankruptcy because of their medical expenses. Maybe they lost their job. That's 22%, right? Uncontrolled spending. I don't even want to get started talking about uncontrolled spending because whether it be with a credit card, your debit card, or even cash, what are you spending your money on? You're talking about the Black community alone, $1.6 trillion of consumership, but yet we don't own a country, we don't own a state, we don't own any property, but yet we still have $1.6 trillion coming out of our households. That's insane because we are not educated on the ways of money. So we need to do things to be able to help us with that. Now, there are other factors that are involved as well, but those 3 things I just shared with you is more than 75% of the challenges or the causes of what puts people in bankruptcy today. So we need to be able to put some kind of protections in place, right? So that's why I wanted to talk to you about the power of living benefits, right? So if you were to incur one of those chronic illnesses, critical illness, or terminal illness, you want to be prepared should those unfortunate events happen in your life. This is the protection that you need to give you the peace of mind that you need so you'll be able to operate successfully. One of the things that I know for sure is stress kills. And one of the leading causes of heart disease for Black women in particular is stress. Black women get so stressed out because they're trying to figure out how to manage the money, take care of the kids, take care of the household, go to work, go to school. They're doing all these things. And you know what? That's a pretty stressful situation, but it also causes a lot of our young women and women in general to be, affected medically. So being able to have the peace of mind will bring down some of those stress levels so you'll be able to enjoy more of a quality of life. So we want to talk about how that's done, right? You want to be able to have that done so you can get those protections and have the peace of mind when you need it most, right? So, when I talk about a critical illness, just like I said, heart attack, stroke, end-stage renal failure for my mom, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will contract some form of cancer. And what's interesting about cancer is out of the 7.5 to 8 billion people on this planet, every human being alive has cancer cells. Everyone. Now, what keeps them from propagating is whatever, various medical reasons that we won't go through. But when they do start to propagate, and by propagation, I mean they start to spread and you end up having an official full-blown form of cancer, you're talking about 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women will get that. And there's over 800,000 strokes every year. And unfortunately, that's disproportionately affecting the Black and brown community because of some of the rigors and challenges of just managing or navigating this financial landscape in this country. And then you talk about after you're dealing with cancer and after dealing with stroke, every 44 seconds someone has a heart attack. Now, just like I said in the outset of this discussion, we do have a situation where this country looks at medical care as a business. So it is profitable for them to keep you alive as long as they can so they can extract as much money out of you as they can. So with that, many people do survive those heart attacks, but you have to live the rest of your life on medications that are sometimes too expensive for you to be able to afford. What does it look like that you're paying $10,000 for insulin or a diabetic medication that you should have been able to get for free? It's insane. Any new medication that comes out, they're going to give you this magic pill that's supposed to be saving your life, but you need to be a billionaire to be able to afford the medication. And approximately 70% of the people over 65 will require long-term care assistance. So not only do you have a challenge paying for the medication, but you also are going to need someone looking after you in your older years if you have any type of physical limitations whatsoever. And family is only going to be able to do so much for you because, again, if you look at the 4 stages of life, they're trying to build their futures just like you built yours. So what can we do, right? 40% will need care in a nursing home. So that's going to cost even more money. So we've got to do something to be able to protect ourselves from that. And if we start talking about chronic illnesses, we talked about eating and bathing and dressing and transferring, toileting and walking around. But what do we do to protect that, right? The medical bills are the biggest cause of bankruptcies. We talked about that earlier. Biggest, right? So what are we going to do to be able to protect ourselves from that, right? Out of those who filed bankruptcy, 80% had health insurance. Now, that is a staggering number. 4 out of every 5 people who had bankruptcies caused by medical bills or medical expenses, they had insurance in place to protect them from that, but it just did not protect them. Why? Because even though you might have the medical insurance to be able to take care of the stroke, the heart attack, the end-stage renal failure, whatnot, there are still other associated expenses that medical insurance does not cover, like looking after your household. Do you know, regardless of how sick you might be, you still got to pay the rent or the mortgage. You still got to pay the gas, the lights, the cell phone, the food, and everything else. These are requirements. And unfortunately, your medical insurance is not going to cover any of that. So being able to put protections in place to be able to protect you from that is a big deal. So I wanted to share that with you so you can get a good idea of why this is urgent, why this is important. And I want to be able to let you know who we are. So, we're the name of the company that I'm with is Census. It's a financial services marketing organization. We have so many relationships with so many different financial institutions out there that allow us the levity to be able to help as many people as we possibly can. And we're driven by a mission that many of you may not have heard of, but you're going to be hearing more and more about that as time goes on. So our mission is Mission 10,000. And this is an opportunity for us to come in contact with 10,000 families every year, right? So why is that so important, right? So if you think about your life as a whole, as an individual, what are the most important things in your life as a whole, as an individual, right? Some of the most important things in your life would be your main assets, your family, your job, your health, your money, as well as your home, right? And unfortunately, in this country and in other countries as well, every one of those things that are important to you are being threatened constantly if you don't have protections in place, if you don't have the revenue to be able to maintain them, right? That's what we do. We help you to protect the things that you care about, everything that's important to you, right? So if you were to lose it all, how would that affect you? How would that affect the way that you operate, right? So the honest answer is you could lose it all from one critical illness or one chronic illness, right? Whether it be a heart attack, stroke, or even cancer. Those expenses can really change the trajectory of your family. Again, we go back to those 4 stages, right? Stage 3 is when you start to accumulate your wealth, when you start to grow your wealth, when you start to stimulate the growth of your wealth. But if you get hit with a critical illness during stage 2 of your financial journey and you don't have the protections in place, that literally could affect your ability to accumulate your wealth, to build your wealth, and ultimately that will affect your ability to leave a legacy for your family. And that is exactly what's been such a huge challenge in the Black and brown community. So we definitely want to talk about how we can protect ourselves from that, because I do not want that one critical illness to keep you away from your legacy, right? So what is Mission 10,000 all about? Again, we want to educate 24. I'm sorry, old slide. Back in 2024, it's 2025 now. Happy New Year. But we want to educate 10,000 families, right? We want to connect them to some of the some of the leading financial companies. We want to build, protect, and preserve wealth. And this is a crusade. Many people that know me know how serious I am about moving forward and sharing this information with as many people as possible, whether they be young or not so young. We're all young to God, right? So we want to get that out there. So, Census is not alone. A lot of the things that we've been doing has really, really caught the attention of some of the big financial institutions out there. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest is a company called Fidelity and Guarantee, where they decided, hey, we really like what you guys are doing. We want to be a part of it. So they wanted to go ahead and buy us outright. And instead, the owners were not ready to just go ahead and sell. So they went ahead and they sold a minority stake in the company, 49%. This is back in 2023, right? So Fidelity and Guarantee is now our financial partner as we continue to share this information and share the opportunity to protect our families, with this company being, a strong partner or ally in this situation. And I don't know if you read the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or any of the other financial journals, but this was a big deal for us. And what's so great about this big deal is over the next couple of years, Fidelity and Guarantee is looking at Census to go ahead and buy us outright. And right now, we're valuated at somewhere around $1 billion as a company. But by the time that, Fidelity and Guarantee decides they want to purchase us, guess what? We're going to be evaluated at maybe $2 to $3 billion. So the company is looking to go IPO at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027. Why is that such a big deal? Because our clients, as well as our agents and leaders, have an opportunity to participate in an IPO before the company actually goes public. So if that happens, if you are given the opportunity to participate before the company goes public, when the company does go public, you instantly make significant amounts of money. Now, why is this a big deal? Because this happened for Google, this happened for Facebook, this happened for Microsoft, where, you've had secretaries who, instead of being paid salaries, they were given stock options. And as the company went IPO, they became millionaires almost overnight, right? So I don't know about you, but being a part of an organization that can potentially make me a millionaire while I'm doing what I love, what I'm doing, what I'm passionate about, why I'm sharing this information, that is a huge opportunity and a big deal for me. So how can we help each of our individual clients? When you look at the basic financial planning pyramid, you're talking about the death benefit and the living benefits, right? Those are where you have financial protections in place. If something was to happen to you, you have money in place to protect your estate. We want to talk about your cash accumulation. We want to talk about how you can save money on your taxes. Because guess what? If you don't know how to manage your taxes, you're being overtaxed. That I can tell you. And even though you're getting a tax refund, one of the things about a tax refund that I do not like, and this is very important for each of you to know, is whenever you give money to the federal government or money to a bank or any financial entity, as they are taking your money, they are investing your money and they're earning what is called compounding interest on your money. So if you are overpaying your taxes every year and you're getting a tax refund, what you are not getting in the form of that tax refund is the compounding interest the federal government earned while they were overtaxing you for that previous year. So it is essential that you manage your tax burden so you can have more of your money during the year and maybe pay a couple of dollars here or there or getting a smaller refund check. But the challenge is so many people are living Friday to Friday, paycheck to paycheck, when they could really use that money right now as opposed to using that as some form of a savings account that you don't appreciate when you get that tax refund. So the way that we help is we help you have better understanding of financial concepts to be able to protect you and your family. So in the event that you have a critical illness or a chronic illness, or Lord forbid, a terminal illness, your family's wealth is protected and you can continue to take care of your family long after you answer God's call. So some of the financial institutions that we work with would be Fidelity and Guarantee. That's one that I really, really love. They offer the best index universal life insurance products that are out there. It gives you an opportunity to have maximum protection as well as accumulate your money very, very fast in a diverse market. You have other companies like AIG. It's actually called Corebridge right now, where a lot of people who might be a little bit older, traditionally over 60, might have some challenges getting coverage because of any pre-existing conditions or any other factors. They can get covered by that company. I really like a company like Emeritus, which gives you a huge mix of opportunities for you to get protection, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or older. So when you have access to this many financial institutions, it's an opportunity for us as professionals to make sure each of our clients have an opportunity to get the protections that they need for themselves and their families. If one institution says, hey, we can't cover this person at this time, then I got a couple of dozen other opportunities to be able to find the best product and service that's available out there for you. So I'm really excited about that. So when you're preparing for an unexpected event, I want you to imagine why we have insurance in the first place. So most of us have insurance on our cars. If you have that $3,000 iPhone because of the new tariffs that are out right now, I bet you have insurance on that right now, right? We might have rental insurance. We might have homeowner insurance. So many people don't understand that we must have insurance on our lives as well. And that includes our livelihood. So even if God does not call you home, but you are stricken with some kind of a medical situation where you cannot work, you want to be prepared against that so you can continue to take care of your household responsibilities. So you can't imagine how much it would mean if you were to get some kind of financial restitution in the event that there's something that happens to you and your family. So, we want to talk about a couple of things that could affect you, right? 62% of cancer patients report being in debt due to their treatment. 55% accrue at least $10,000 in debt, while 3% file for bankruptcy. There was this thing I saw online where a woman lost her $850,000 house because she owed homeowners association fees because she ran into some financial struggles, right? So that do you know that if you owe any money, they could put a lien on your house and take your house even? It doesn't matter what the denomination of money that might be. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine paying into your house for 10, 20, 30 years and someone taking it? because you weren't able to pay a $5,000 bill because they rebuilt your porch, or you weren't able to cover some homeowner association fees that you really don't get any return on investment for. That's insane. So when you talk about cancer costing in excess of $80 billion a year, you can imagine that you'll be in some kind of financial challenges at some point in your life, and you want to be able to make sure those protections are in place so you don't have to worry about losing your home, the home for your children, the home for your grandchildren, the home that you're going to bequeath to the people that you love the most, right? So that's important. So, living paycheck to paycheck is not the answer, and we definitely don't want people to be worried about that. So there's a couple of case studies that I wanted to be able to share with you, and I've shared this before, but I really want to drive home why this is important, right? So, case study number one, gentleman, he decides he's going to go ahead and get some coverage, $300,000 in coverage. Fantastic, right? He ends up getting colon cancer 3 years, almost 2.5 years after he gets his policy, right? Now, I want you to imagine you got debt here, you got debt there, and now all of a sudden you get sick, and now the income that you're used to making from your job is no longer there because you cannot go to work or you cannot run your business. If you are a private practitioner, right? Say you are a doctor, $400,000 a year doctor, $500,000 a year doctor, versus a $50,000 a year employee. If you get sick, that hourly worker making $50,000 a year and that doctor making $500,000 a year are both exactly in the same situation, because both of them are required to physically go to work to make their money, right? And if they are unable to physically go to work to make their money, if they don't have any emergency funds or any savings available, right, then they could actually lose everything until they are able to recover. And how long is that recovery period going to be? So I want you to imagine being able to, have some protection in place to where, hey, you know what? This life insurance policy is going to protect you in the event that you have, any kind of a medical situation, a qualifying medical situation. So this gentleman got cancer. Oh my God, I need money. I got to take care of my wife. I got to take care of my family. So they put in a claim and got 74% of their death benefit. Now, why is this a big deal? Because a lot of people think that life insurance is the way life insurance used to be. You had to die and someone else gets the money. That's not how it is now, right? You get to be the beneficiary, and I hate to say get to be because it's not like it's exciting to get sick, right? But you can be the beneficiary of your own life insurance policy. And what's great about that is whatever monies that you get, that money is yours. So even if you only used a portion of the money that you were paid out, you don't have to pay that money back. You can put that into another fund. You can reinvest it. You can bequeath it to a family member if you choose to. Start another business. Hey, hire someone to take your place so you can go ahead and keep your private practice going, right? But that money is yours. And whatever's left over, if you have a recurring event, you still have some life insurance protection to protect you if that recurring event does take you away from working. It's fantastic. So you're talking about this gentleman here, he got paid 74% of his $300,000 policy, and they went ahead and they cut this guy a check for how much? $220,000. Now, while you're trying to scramble to figure out where this money is going to come from, I venture to say a $200,000 check is going to be kind of a blessing, right? I got one of my agents. She has a client who will remain nameless. This person just lost $200,000 in the market, and if you've been looking at how the market's been doing, almost every day, if you would, people are losing their money. Not $5 or $10 here and there, but 10, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000 or more. But the great thing about having this type of financial protection is regardless of whatever the market is doing, this money is steadfast. The money that you have in your account is steadfast. It's not subject to market fluctuation. So in the event that you have any kind of a medical illness, they're going to cut you this check regardless of what the financial situation is doing in this country. I think that's fantastic. So, this gentleman, he had 2 life insurance policies, one with Northwestern and one with Fidelity and Guarantee. I'm glad that I listened to what his friend said, right? And what's so powerful about that statement is the person or the agent that sold the policy to him recommended a certain amount of money, but not everyone does exactly what the recommendation says, right? A good example of that is one of our colleagues has a brother. His name is Johnny Baylard. He ended up getting a substantial life insurance policy, about $100,000 in coverage, but his recommendation was actually more. And he got his policy back in October of 2015. But what's interesting about this story is he got the policy as a favor for his sister, not as a way to protect himself, but more like a way to get her to kind of back off a little bit, right? So the recommendation that he had was for significantly more coverage than what he chose to get. But guess what happens? 1 year later, not even a full year later, 8 months later, he ends up getting prostate cancer. Now, when he got this prostate cancer, you understand, because of the type of work that he did, it required him to be present. He wasn't a salaried employee. He did not have the vacation and all the other bells and whistles that, certain high-level employees get. So he literally physically needed to be at work to be able to make that money. So because he was not able to be at work, now it's a situation where he's threatened to be able to take care of his household while he's trying to recover. So now he's even more stressed out trying to figure out where this money's coming from. So thankfully, his sister reminded him, hey, you got that life insurance policy. Yeah. So they went ahead and cut him a check for $46,000, right? He used that money to maintain his household expenses. And by the grace of God, he recovered quickly. And now he lives cancer-free, never having lost any money during the ordeal. That is a powerful situation that I love to be able to share. Right? And then we also have another situation, which is kind of a similar situation, but maybe not so much. So this gentleman here, again, was recommended to get more coverage. He chose not to, right? He ended up with $100,000. And when he got his prostate cancer, he forgot all about the living benefits in his policy. Didn't even think about it. So now he's literally going absolutely crazy trying to figure out where he's going to get some money. And then he ends up, I forget exactly how he came in contact with his agent, but he contacts his agent. He's like, hey, I am in a lot of trouble. I don't know what to do. I really need some money because now I have prostate cancer. I'm a musician and I cannot perform. And if I cannot perform, I cannot make the money that I need to maintain my household, right? So his agent said, well, did you check your policy to see if you qualify for your living benefits? I can do that. Yes. That's why you got it in the first place, right? So thankfully, his agent reminded him, hey, you can actually, file a claim against your policy. And what ended up happening is he gets a check for $66,000. How about that for the grace of God? Now, you understand, he forgot all about the protection being in place, but that's why it is important that we meet with our clients every year, right? Because as an added service, it's like, this is an opportunity for me to help you understand why your current insurance or your protection is there for you, right? If something were to happen, you have a life-changing event, you go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4. If anything changes, when we sit down and we discuss this, we want to make sure that the protection that you have in place is for your current situation as well as your future situation potentially, right? That way, you don't have to worry about the mental tragedy of worrying about where you're going to get this money to be able to maintain your household, right? This gentleman gets a check for $66,000. He is now cancer-free, and that bass guitar that he's playing, on that bass that he's playing right there, it's not a bass guitar, it's a bass. That bass that he's playing right there, he's out there making music for millions of people, right? Yeah, if he's online, I don't know if it's millions of people, but we're just going to embellish and say millions, right? But he's making music for so many people who enjoy his music, and because he's doing what he loves, he's blessed to be able to continue doing what he loves without having to worry about being in some type of a financial situation where he ends up having to sell his base, sell his house, sell his car, and potentially have to forfeit his life because he didn't have the means to be able to protect himself from any financial challenges. So, I really wanted this discussion tonight because I wanted to be able to discuss some of the things that I've been learning, in some of the town hall meetings and some of the meetings that I've had at local churches. A lot of this information is super important, coming out, and I appreciate all of you being out here tonight. And I thank you for, being able to take this time to listen to me talk. But again, these meetings are discussions, right? The big topic lately has been tariffs. It's been Social Security. It's been Medicare, Medicaid. It's been people losing their jobs. Even veterans who get preferential treatment, we've been losing our jobs as well, right? So when you have this many challenges occurring, it is essential that we find all the protections that are available so we can do the things that's important to us, like taking care of ourselves and our families, right? So right now we got a little bit of time. I wanted to be able to open up to answer any questions that you might have. Was there a question here? And I'm still at work. Okay, Mr. Wade, no problem. Did anybody have any questions so far?
I'm curious, what do you recommend for people who would normally be ready to retire but find themselves in a situation where they just can't at this time? So then if you're relying on things like Social Security, or you're relying on veterans benefits or Medi-Cal, whatever the situation may be, what do you recommend for those people when in this current political climate, all of that may go away?
That is a powerful question that I actually expect to hear more and more, because that's the question that I've been answering almost every day now. So you have a situation where you're absolutely right. Matter of fact, let me go. No, I won't bring that up. But when you have a situation where if your primary source of income is being threatened by some of the policies of our current administration, and you're already in retirement age, this is the challenge, because most people will tell you, don't worry about it, write it out, you'll recover, right? Well, if you're 30 or 40, yeah, you can write that out and maybe you can recover. But what I try to get people to understand is you recover from losses. You don't recover losses. So once that money is gone, that money is gone, right? So to answer your question specifically, right? If you are trying to retire right now, and if they're talking about taking away Social Security, they're talking about taking away Medicare, Medicaid, if they're talking about adjusting some of your retirement money, or you might have lost some money in your account, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is secure what you got. Okay, secure what you got, because the Social Security payments and the Medicare coverage and all that other stuff, that's actually not really yours until you get it, right? And that's only on a month by month basis. Secure what you got. Tony, what do you mean? I mean, if you have a retirement fund that is directly connected to the stock market, you need to disconnect it. Now, before you make that move, you need to understand the pros and cons of making that move, right? So say you have $500,000 in some kind of a mutual fund or stock market indice or whatnot. Say you have $500,000 currently riding the market right now. Regardless of what the market is doing, whether it's going up, going down, or just hanging out, regardless of what the market is doing, it's not the number or the dollar amount that's in your account that you care about. It is the stock price of the shares that you care about. Let me say that again. So you say you got $500,000 in your stock market or your brokerage account that's directly tied into the market. $500,000. That $500,000 represents, I don't know, 50,000 shares. So that's $100 per share, right? What you care about, this is what you care about, because if the market were to drop 50%, then your brokerage account would be worth $250,000, but you still have 50,000 shares, right? And because you still have 50,000 shares, when the market recovers, as your share price increases, the overall dollar amount represented in your portfolio also increases, right? Now, here's the question. If you have 50,000 shares of Amazon widgets, and the Amazon widget is not doing well, and it does not look like it's going to recover, it is now time for you to talk to your financial professional to find out exactly what you need to do. Do you keep that 50,000 shares in widgets, or do you start selling off those shares in widgets? Because again, the amount of money that those widgets are worth is not something that you own until you sell them. I'm going to say that again. You got 50,000 shares. If you sell them, then you own any gains or you own any losses, right? You understand that? So as long as you leave it in there, you're good to go. Now, say you don't have your money in one particular widget. Say you got your money spread off over a cascading number of widgets. Now it's time for you to really start looking at various prospectuses of businesses that are doing better, right? So you might have to take the money out of those accounts and start putting it into other accounts that are doing better. That also requires you to be very, very well educated on how the market is working. You're going to need help with that if you're unable to monitor that on a daily basis. If you cannot monitor your money on a daily basis and you require the assistance of a financial professional, a stockbroker, a day trader, or whatnot, you're going to have to look at this on a daily basis, right? But here's the deal. Here's the rub. If the market, Dow Jones, S&P 500, and all the various indexes are all doing collectively bad, right? That means money is tanking for most of the accounts that's going on out there right now. My question would be an answer to your question, because it's not good to answer a question with a question, is what is your gut tolerance? How much loss how risk averse are you? And I'm going to say this because if you have $500,000 and the market just dropped 500 points, which now puts you at $400,000, and it does not look like it's going to recover, how long before you pull out to save what you have left? Because if you believe that the market is going to come back, leave the money in. But you take a serious risk on that market not coming back in time to save your money. Because what happens if you got 50,000 shares of stock in businesses that are going out of business? Right? They're going out of business. They're closing the doors. So guess what? Even though you got shares in those companies are closing their doors, your shares are almost worthless. Right? So you really have to make a decision. So that's with respect to the market. So if you have a situation where someone, maybe they don't have any money invested, right? They don't have any money invested. You're someone who is literally working towards your retirement. You got a savings account, some kind of a certificate of deposit or something. If you have a retirement number, $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, and that retirement number was predicated on you getting Social Security, you're going to have to adjust your retirement age accordingly. I'm sorry to tell you. Because if your Social Security check, $2,200, $2,400, $3,000, was there to augment your retirement situation, you need $10,000 a month. And the money that you've saved is going to get you $7,000 a month. $3,000 is going to come from your Social Security check. Now they're threatening to take that Social Security check. So you're going to have to modify that $7,000. In order for you to get more, you're probably going to have to work a few more years. Now, there is a silver lining to this situation. Because I'm very political, this is what I believe to my core. You have Social Security, Medicaid, SNAP benefits, welfare, all these other things, right? More than 50% of the population that uses those benefits are Caucasian. Now, I do understand that you've heard the political backlash, all the noise that they've been making. No, black people are a burden to our financial well-being. Black people, brown people are using up all these systems. For the people that are Caucasian that will be watching this video, this is the truth that I need you all to understand. It is not a good idea for you to vote against your own interests. Why? Because the majority of the welfare programs, Medicare programs, Social Security programs, the majority of the entitlement programs are utilized by Caucasian Americans. That is a bona fide fact. So because of that, right, even though Republicans in the House, in the Senate, the presidency, your local governance, even though they're yelling and screaming about getting rid of these programs are too popular for the people that are using them most. The reason why this is a whole lot of noise or getting scary is because of the packaging that they put on this. You don't want this person to get this that you're getting. So what they do is they try to demonize those persons and make it seem like those persons are responsible for it. But I'm going to tell you this right now. They cannot give those programs or the monies from those programs to just one group of people, no matter how hard they try, right? So if they're trying to hurt a specific group of people, to ease your mind, if they're trying to hurt a specific group of people, what they would have to do is disqualify those specific groups of people, right? Now, that is why financial education is so important, because while they're trying to figure out a way to disqualify Black and brown people so Caucasian people can get those benefits, while they're trying to disqualify it because we don't have the education, they can get away with that maybe 5% of the time, 10% of the time, but that 5, 10, 15 or more or less, they're being affected by that because they don't have the education in place. So as we continue to have these discussions, we learn how to file properly for our taxes. We learn how to complete a Medicare application. You know, when we had a presentation about that, we learn how to make sure we qualify for our Social Security benefits. And we also make sure we manage our financial situation well enough so we can get the maximum Social Security benefit without incurring any challenges or any opposition to that. There are going to be some difficulties over the next couple of years while we have the current administration, but I believe to my core, because the people that benefit the most, at some point they are going to learn that they have been voting against their interests, and they're going to fight against that, which ultimately is going to make sure that those entitlement programs remain intact, albeit they might be a little bit morphed. They won't be exactly how they were, but it is political suicide to get rid of entitlement programs that are so popular regardless of how people understand them. I hope that was a long-winded way to answer your question, but I wanted you to understand some of the perspectives on that, right? So anyone else have any other questions? Welcome, Pastor Bowie. Thank you for being on. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you there, Brother Tony. Enjoying you as always.
Thank
Sorry
you.
I got on late.
That's okay. You know I'm recording everything. So
All right, God bless you.
while y'all are sitting there, I got a chance to go out. I still got 5 minutes. You know I'm gonna take my whole 60, but I got a chance to go out to listen to my congresswoman last night, and she also reassured us that these programs will still be available in so many words because they're fighting to make sure that they stay in place. As we continue to have these discussions, you know, we continue to have guest speakers on as well as me presenting these living benefits, and you know, whether to talk about my company, Warfield Insurance Strategies, or talk about my parent company, Census, or whether we're just doing regular financial literacy education. The goal is to make sure each of us are sharing this information with as many people as possible and using the information. Information means nothing if it's not applied, right? So being able to learn this information and share this information with others is a big deal. Right now, I'm looking at the people that are on this call. I'd say at least 3 people probably are eligible for Social Security or getting close to it. And because of that, that is a big deal. So we're going to continue this discussion or discussion adjacent every week. As I continue to get more information about that, I definitely will be sharing that information with the masses. So with that, does anybody have any other questions? All right. So I
You
see
did
Lynn.
mention about,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I had one more question. You
Yes, ma'am.
mentioned about the IPO.
Yes.
End of 2026 or early 2027.
Oh, somebody was paying attention. I love it.
So how does that work? If you are, so that would be an opportunity for employees or staff or agents, and you mentioned clients to participate in that. How does that work? Because I've never bought into an IPO. So can you explain to me how that would work?
I will share that as excitedly as I am about that. So I got a chance to participate in the IPO for the first time many years ago. That's when I got the taste for it. It's delicious. So the way that this works is whenever a company wants to grow fast, they want to expand quickly, they need an influx or a windfall of cash. So what they do is if a private company wants to have that influx of cash, they offer additional ownership to other people, right? So the way that it works for an IPO is the company will potentially offer anywhere from 10 to 20% of the company to be offered to the public, right? So imagine if the company is worth $1 billion, $1 billion, and they offered 20% of the company to the public. That's $200 million that's offered to the public in the form of shares, right? So whatever the share price is, they might set the share price to be at $10 a share. $10 per share out of $200 million. What is that? 200,000 shares, right? So 200,000 shares are available. So if 200,000 shares are available, the question is, how do we profit from those shares the fastest? And so whenever they offer that in an initial public offering, the people that are in the company get what is called friends and family shares. Friends and family shares. So whether you are an employee of Census itself, or you're an agent that works with Census, you are offered friends and family shares. So if you're offered friends and family shares, and say they offer you, of the 200,000 shares, they offer you as an individual 1,000 shares, right? 1,000 shares at $10 per share. So that's 1,000 shares at $10 per share. That's going to be $10,000 that you'd be paying in to get all 1,000 of those shares. Now, that being said, you might only want to buy 500 of those shares. You might want to buy 200 of those shares. You might only buy 100 of those shares. You might not buy any of those shares. But because you're allotted 1,000 shares, you can actually offer those shares to friends and family. Now, under friends and family, also there's clients. So if you have clients who, like I have clients who have gotten high dollar annuities, right? There are people who really like to be able to make more money, especially when they're getting closer towards retirement, right? So it's like, hey, right now my company is offering me 1,000 shares. I'm going to allot you 100 shares if you want them. Well, how much money is it for each share? It's $10 per share. So that means I need you to pay $1,000 so you can get 100 shares at $10 per share. So they pay that $1,000. Now they got 100 shares available to them before the company actually goes public. This is the key. They got 100 shares, or in my case, 1,000 shares that I'm going to be divvying up between myself and my friends and my family and my clients. So that's 1,000 shares at 10,000 shares, 10,000. At $10 a share, $10,000 before the company goes public. So as soon as the company goes public, if the stock price were $20, the market opens up, ding, 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 best bell ever, right? And as soon as they start trading, the dollar amount per share is now $20 per share. Remember, we bought our shares at $10 per share, right? I don't care if I bought that 1,000 shares 5 minutes before the market opened. I still purchased $10 per share. That is $10,000 for all 1,000 shares. The market now opens at $20 per share. Now the shares are worth $20 per share. So now we just made $10,000 on top of our $10,000 investment as soon as the bell rang. So now everyone that has friends and family shares, they just doubled their money. And why is that such a big deal? Because when I had my first IPO, I bought all my shares at $16 a share. They gave me 500. No one else wanted to buy any shares, so I went ahead and bought all 500 shares, $8,000. And I bought some additional shares after the company went public, right? So as soon as the market started, I bought my shares at $16 a share. The market opened up just under $21 per share. So I made like 30-40% in the first day. But my average selling price for all my shares was $71, right? So from 16 to 71 is 56, what is that, $55 that I made for every one of my shares? So that's why when I explained this earlier in the presentation, it's not how many shares that you have that you should be concerned. Scratch that. It's not how much money that's actually in the account. It's how many shares you have that matters, and whether or not they're going to recover. So if you wanted to participate in this IPO, how many shares would you want to buy at the opening price? And once you got that at the opening price, when the company goes public, if the market goes higher or offers a higher share price than you paid, then you instantly made that money back. Instantly. Now, until you sell those shares, you don't own that gain. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
All right. So if the market goes to $30, you're still making money. If the market goes to $40, $50, $60, $70, you're still making money. You continue to grow until you sell. Now, when do you sell? That's the question. Because you might be risk averse, meaning you're afraid of losing the money, but you also might be afraid of the market price going down after you've already reached 50, 60, 70, $80. But what's so cool about an IPO is I promise you, you're going to be so excited, you're going to be watching it every single day. So you'll be able to keep your eye on what it's doing, and when it starts to slow down, once you've reached the number that you feel comfortable with, go ahead and sell your shares. But if it's going up like a rocket, find out what you're comfortable with and then sell your shares after that. If you want to sell your shares at all, because as I shared with you about Microsoft, they never sold their shares, and someone had bought 10,000 shares back in 1988. That was worth $200,000 back in 1988. It's worth $42 million right now. So what are you willing to wait for? Great question. Any more questions? All right, so thank you all so much. This is going to be a continued conversation. I'm hoping that what's happening in the country right now, some of the challenges with some of our financial protections will be worked out. I really believe that they will, not because I believe in the current administration, but because I believe that God is going to look after us. And Pastor Bowie is raising his hand. Yes, Pastor Bowie.
Yes, sir. So what is there an IPO that you know of that's going to be offered that there's an opportunity? I've got on late, so I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yes, sir. The company that I'm with, we're going to be going IPO at the end of 2026 to 2027, or the beginning of 2027.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
And how many shares will you have access to?
Yes. We don't know yet. That's so great. That's another
Okay.
great question. So right now, the company is valuated just over about $1 billion. And
Okay.
the projections are that the company will be valuated somewhere between $2 and $3 billion by the end of 2026. That we have two owners that are looking to retire. They've already sold a 49% stake in the company, and they're looking at releasing the other 51% to a company called Fidelity and Guarantee. They're our major partner in this discussion. And Fidelity and Guarantee wanted to buy us out completely back in 2023. The owners weren't ready, so they said, hey, just give us a couple more years. Let's build up our valuation. Because at the time, we were worth about $400 million or something like that. Now we're
Right.
about $1 billion, expected to be $2 to $3 billion by the end of 2026. And if
Okay.
that were to happen, if we go IPO, they usually release about 10 to 20% of whatever the company's valuation price is. So if the
Right.
company is valuated at $2 billion, that's $400 million that's going to be available to potential investors, right? That would be your agents, that would be your employees, but it will also be the friends and family of agents and employees. And you understand, all the people that might be my clients, I consider them friends because they help me to build my organization. So I would also be able to offer them some of those shares before the company actually goes public. And when that happens, once the company goes public, whatever the original price is or whatever the friends and family price is, as the market opens, is expected to be higher than that price. And that immediately makes a significant amount of money. And why is this a big deal that I didn't share with Miss Moore? It's because of the company that we're with, right? The company that we're with is Fidelity and Guarantee. They have over $50 billion in assets. And
Right.
because they like the way that we do business, that is a huge opportunity for us to really increase the valuation of this company and to be able to potentially make millionaires out of people that's been working in with this company for a number of years.
Hello, friend.
That's right. That you know what, and you know what was so great about that? Claim it early, because you know how many cousins and sisters and brothers and friends I'm going to have in the next couple of years out of nowhere. So you are one smart man. Claim that friendship now, because when I start divvying up those shares, it's only going to go to friends and family. So that right there was hilarious. Thank you so much, Pastor Bowie. So again, thank you all so much. You know, I really enjoy doing these presentations. Next week, I'm going to have a clinical therapist on. She's going to be talking about how mental health affects your financial future. So I'll definitely hoping that all of you that are here today will be able to join me next week. Again, Pastor Bowie, he's been doing a great job at a community event where it's called God, Money, and Me, where he's bringing, you know, a bunch of people from, you know, various disciplines, industries to discuss financial literacy at his church. And we're going to be entering week number 4 this coming Thursday. So again, I try to record as much as I can, whether it be the town hall meetings, in person meetings, online meetings, so the information is available to everyone. So if you get a chance, definitely find me on YouTube, become a subscriber. So anytime there's a new video or a live presentation that opens up, you'll get a nice notification to let you know that it's happening. You can plug in, ask questions, save it, share it, subscribe it, do whatever you want. But the goal is to make sure that we reach all 10,000 of those families and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to have a better financial future so they can bequeath their legacy to their loved ones. So with that, I thank you all so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.